Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to do a deep dive into the story behind Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit.
A really powerful song.
Yes, and as you know on this show, we love to investigate the background of things that are well known.
Right, dig a little deeper.
Exactly. We are trying to uncover why this song was so controversial, especially back in the 1930s and 40s. And our main source today is this fascinating article titled Pasted Text.
Looking forward to getting into it.
Me too. So to kind of set the stage for everyone, I mean, we are talking about America in the 1930s and 40s.
Right.
And it was a very different place than it is today.
Absolutely. I mean, segregation was rampant. Systemic racism was just deeply ingrained into society.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You know, and it was a time when a lot of people felt like they could just ignore what was going on.
Right, just pretend it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Now, the song itself, Strange Fruit, did not start out as a song. It was originally a poem.
A poem by Ebel Meeropol?
Meeropol. And, I mean, the lyrics are very graphic and powerful.
Oh, incredible.
And for a lot of people, even today, very disturbing. It vividly depicts the horrors of lynching.
Right.
And compares the victims to strange fruit hanging from trees.
Such powerful imagery, and that was definitely intentional.
Right.
You know, Meeropol, he wanted to force people to confront this reality, the reality of racial violence.
Exactly. This was a very deliberate choice.
Yes.
To really shock people into paying attention.
Yeah, because for many white Americans, this was something that they could just choose to ignore.
Yeah, and so you can imagine how those in power felt about this song.
Yeah, those in power, particularly white political leaders and law enforcement.
Oh, they saw it as a huge threat.
They did not want this issue brought to light.
No, it challenged the status quo. And that brings us to the U.S. government and how they reacted.
Yes, specifically the FBI and the Federal Bureau of Narcotics.
Right, and they had their sights set on Billie Holiday.
Of course.
The singer who popularized the song.
Right, they saw her as a problem. And so they didn't go after the song directly, at least not at first.
Right, it wasn't like they tried to ban it from the radio or anything like that.
Right, they went after Billie Holiday herself.
And they used her drug addiction against her.
Unfortunately.
Which was a tactic.
A common tactic.
Yes, a common tactic at the time.
During the Red Scare?
Yeah, this was during the Red Scare when fear of communism was used to silence a lot of dissenting voices.
It's a dark period.
Yeah, it's a really dark chapter.
Really is.
In American history. And so Billie Holiday, an African-American woman who was challenging the status quo,
right.
You know, she became an easy target for them.
Yes, very much so.
And the person who really spearheaded this persecution was Harry Anslinger.
Oh, yes, the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics.
And he was a notoriously racist guy.
Very much so. He was openly advocating for really discriminatory policies and, you know, and his views on drug use, particularly among minority communities, he was very vocal about that.
Right. He really viewed it as this menace to society.
Exactly. And so when Strange Fruit came out, I mean, he saw it as a direct attack on white America.
Absolutely.
And he used his position to just harass Billie Holiday relentlessly.
Yeah. I mean, he had her arrested.
Right.
He denied her proper medical care.
Just awful.
It's a really sad story. But now I'm curious. I mean, how did the public react to all of this? Was the song universally hated?
Not exactly. I mean, it was controversial, no doubt.
Sure.
But to say that it was universally hated would not be accurate. Many, particularly within the African-American community,
right,
they embraced the song. They saw it as an anthem for their struggles.
Right, it gave voice to their pain and their anger.
Exactly. And so even though the government tried to silence Billie Holiday,
right,
the song still found its audience.
Yeah. So it's almost like their attempts to suppress it actually backfired.
You could say that. Strange Fruit went on to become one of the most haunting and powerful protest songs in American history.
And it's a testament to the power of art, right? That it can challenge injustice, even when facing, you know, really intense adversity.
Absolutely.
And speaking of that, you mentioned earlier that this song had an impact on the civil rights movement.
Oh, it definitely did.
Even though it predates the movement by a few years?
Right. It was a precursor.
So can you talk a little bit about its role in that?
Sure. Strange Fruit really forced America to confront the issue of lynching, which, as I mentioned before, was something that many people just preferred to ignore. And it brought this horrific reality into the national conversation.
Yeah. It was a conversation that needed to happen.
It did. And, you know, the song became a rallying cry. I mean, it was one of the early seeds that helped to fuel the fight for racial equality.
And what a powerful reminder that art can be more than just entertainment.
Right.
It can be a weapon against injustice.
Absolutely. A catalyst for change.
So to wrap up, what are the big takeaways here? I mean, Strange Fruit wasn't just some random song.
No, it wasn't.
It was a bold act of protest against deeply rooted racism.
Yeah, and it exposed the ugly truth about America's racial tensions.
Right. And started a dialogue that continues even today.
It certainly did. Despite all the hate and all the efforts to suppress it, Strange Fruit really brought the issue of lynching to the forefront and,
It was a pivotal moment
it was.
in the fight for civil rights.
It really was.
So if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to listen to Billie Holiday's version of Strange Fruit.
It's a must listen.
It is. And as you listen, think about its message and how it still resonates with issues we face today. It's a powerful testament to the idea that even in the darkest times, a single voice can make a huge difference.
It absolutely can.
And that will do it for our deep dive on Strange Fruit. Thanks for joining us. Until next time.
Thanks, everyone.